time with the writing gluten-free. So they cannot write naturally gluten-free. They have to write gluten-free. Naturally gluten-free is not enough. Then there are ingredients like sugar, for example, that we are always confident in, unless it was open. Cocoa would be naturally gluten-free, but it can be contaminated as well. So cocoa needs to have the gluten-free wording. So when we buy, so the organization should start upstream. When we buy, we must make sure that we buy raw materials that make our life easy. I would like to add that gluten-free cocoa doesn't have a higher price. Since celiac disease is very widespread, companies are already organizing to certify with gluten-free writing. If the writing is not there and we have a doubt, there's an app with the list. There will be an app next year, but it's very easy to check, and we can check the list. We use it because Margherita holds courses for our third year classes. And she helps us teachers because sometimes we are good at choosing the ingredients, but we need to improve our procedure. We're starting from the assumption that everything could be contaminated. So let's mix the ingredients. So while we put the cake in the oven, we will also have time to speak. So we have baking soda, oil, all pre-weighed so that it's easier for us. So let's recap. Almond flour, rice flour, sugar, cocoa, baking soda, oil, and raspberry juice. Now I will use nectar. This is a craft product made in Sauris. It's local. You can also use any other juice. So we have a high quality product here, so we can use it. If you're not local, Sauris is north of Friuli in Carnia. It's famous for its ham and for a brewery. And it's a popular tourist resort. And in August, there's a very beautiful ham festival. So I put in the chat box the list of ingredients for the cake. Now we have disposable cups. We can use paper, oil paper, not butter paper, because we have a vegan product here. So they're asking for the quantity of cocoa you're using. 150 grams. I can repeat the quantities. 300 almond flour or whole almond, 300 rice flour, 430 sugar, 150 bitter cocoa, 10 grams of baking soda, 650 grams of raspberry juice, and 100 grams of seed oil. You could also use any other type of juice. Today we use raspberry because we also use raspberry for the decoration. I've also prepared a coulis of raspberry. You could use plum juice or orange juice. And apricots as well, like for the Zacke tarte. So you can play on it with it. So the will be very liquid. Yes, it's good. You just have to mix it because we don't have yeast here. It's easy to mix. Yes, we will have our students who finish the job and put it in the mold. Now you set the oven at 260 degrees for 35 minutes. The cake won't raise because it doesn't have yeast. Have you already described oil? We are modern Margherita here. We used to make it with butter, but here we have rice flour. We use the detacher and the spray. And our students asked, is it gluten-free, the spray? We checked the label. In this case, there's only oil inside and we can use it. If we have any doubt, we won't use it. We can cook it. Let's continue. So if we wanted to bake the cake at home, how do we set the oven? Windy or static? Well, there's no difference because it doesn't have to raise. It doesn't risk getting dry because it's very humid, so it doesn't make any difference. Admittedly, Giulia bakes her cakes, but very often a bit dry. Okay, we cannot compare this with the classic chocolate cake with eggs and butter. This is a vegan product. So we were talking about the management of special customers. We call them strange, odd. No, it's important to be able to do things. I make a promiscuous cooking. So classic and for those who are intolerant. Because if I only made gluten-free, lactose-free cooking, yes, it will be more cumbersome for the recipes I have to look for, but it will be easier because I wouldn't have contaminations. But when there's promiscuous, you have to pay more attention. Okay, let's continue with the second preparation. Now we have to make the pasta for tagliatelle and chiarchons. We use the same pasta for the same two preparations. Chiarchons traditionally can be made with 2 or 3 types of pasta. Either with egg pasta, and we will make it in a gluten-free version, or with gnocchi pasta, or with water and flour that is linked to the poverty of the territory, because the eggs were sold to the um, higher classes. So pasta was made without eggs. The other day, we offered chiarchons with semolina. It's strange because it didn't exist from Rome down. It did, but Rome up, no. Today we make it with eggs because we need a binder. So let me explain the ingredients. We have rice flour. So rice flour, 100 gram, maizena 50 grams, santano 3 grams, guar 3 grams, eggs 3, water to taste. We have 2 types of starch. Xanthan is a thickener to make the dark thicker. Xanthan is water gum, and its elastic guar comes from caroube, and it absorbs water. So these two substances help you create the gluten network, because we have no gluten. And then we have eggs with the same function of creating elasticity. And we have an egg-based dough because we want to make egg pasta. So let's start. We have Chef Federico, who's restless and wants to join. So we will have him make chiarchons, or the filling Let's talk about the filling. Cartons. I'll read the ingredients of the cartons. Cooked potatoes 300 grams, onion 1, butter 50 grams, ground cinnamon 20 grams, sultanas 100 grams, sugar 100, salt and pepper 1 pinch, and mint a few leaves. This filling is one of the many fillings that we could make because traditionally in Carnia, every valley and every family had their recipes. And here I would like to trace the history of this recipe in some valleys of Carnia. Some people did some trades that made them travel. These people were forced to travel. What happens when you travel? When you travel, you can meet and learn, meet and import many ingredients like cinnamon and other spices. And new retailers were established called Kramars, who brought the spices from Venice to Northern Europe. And they had a backpack with many drawers where they kept their spices. They worked, no donkey, no horse. Their travel would last months. They came back richer and with some spice residues, and their wives would make filled pasta, put in the herbs and the spices they had available, also dried ones. So we from Friuli, Margherita, we must admit, always say we are better than our neighbors. That's why our feelings were different. The croissants were closed different, sealed differently. Were all the same depending on the ingredients available. Now pasta. Can you give me the container for the pasta? Let's knead the pasta. I have a few questions for the participants. Has anyone ever used the thickeners, Xanthan, Guar? Can you tell us if you have any experience? So let's talk about the ready mixtures. You could use a universal mixture. If you read the labels, you would see that the ingredients are always the same. So rice flour, corn flour, There could be wheat and buckwheat are always thickeners, guar and xanthan, but eventually those are the ingredients. But in schools, we try not to use the mixture, but you use pure flours, and then we mix them so that we can make the recipe to our liking. Here we can decide to play with flours. So in the past, people said that finding guar and xanthan for housewives it would be difficult, but now everything can be found. Until a few years ago, I would order from the chemist because I was confident that they were gluten-free, because these ingredients need to be gluten-free labeled, because maybe the factory where they're made can be contaminated. Now you can find them online, well, always with that writing. If you look for this ingredient online, pay attention to this writing. So look for the right products. So we're kneading the pasta and we'll let it rest, ideally. So if there are questions, we're open to questions. When you make preparations in your restaurant, do you do this? Do you make this cake express, or do you prepare the line of cakes in advance? Yes, this is a cake that is not part of my menu, but I always have it ready in the freezer. Yeah, lifesaver, because when I have a vegan or a celiac or a lactose intolerant, this cake is right. So for the celiac people, I have semifreddo, for example, and I have other desserts. For a celiac who's also lactose intolerant, I have this cake in the freezer that is both gluten-free and lactose-free. And I have vegan sorbets. I always try to organize my restaurant so that I always have something for everyone. When you go and work at the restaurant and you have to prepare your menu, you have to keep this in mind, to be prepared. Make sure that you always have something that works for any intolerance. Thank you. Robert from Pula says that he often makes pasta like this using chickpea flour. In this case, it's so yes, chickpea flour can be replaced. Can replace one of these flours, or it can be fully chickpea flour. But in any case, you will have to use thickener, because I don't think you can process it with chickpea flour only. I think that's what he meant. Robert, if you want to comment in Italian or in English, if you want to add some information about the thickener that you use. Robert is an old friend. Yes, I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me. Yes, we can hear you fine. Perfect, thanks. Yes, I use flour, rice flour, not simple one. But I use the flour with a high rate of proteins, like the one that is used to make the Japanese cake. I use that, use chickpea flour, eggs, and I use some potato starch to absorb the liquid. I simply add some yolk to the pasta to have more elasticity and fat. So use a mixture of flours. Yes, rice, the high protein chickpea flour. Equal to 30% of the dough. Because chickpea flour absorbs liquids and leaves other proteins. Yes, chickpea flour is used instead of starch. Do you have the rice flour, the high protein rice flour? It says only rice. And I think it also says carob. Yes, the carob flour is guar. Yes, it's already been used for many years in the ice cream industry. Yes, because it absorbs liquids. Yes, that's its property of absorbing free liquids that cannot be absorbed by sugars and water and other things. The filling doesn't have to be too humid. I often have to use that type of flour, and it's because it's full of proteins and it protects everything. So let's continue. So let's do the filling of carchon. So we have the onion that is already browned with butter. We are pressing boiled potatoes. It's a mountain potato, so it's an excellent potato. Here you have salt and pepper. So Chef Federico is cutting it, is very efficient. So filling, we have boiled potatoes, onion, butter, but we use to brown the onion, ground cinnamon, sultanas, sugar. Salt, pepper. Mint. And yesterday we're talking about management of a special customer in a stressful job and in the communication between the kitchen and the main room. So this is only mint. Did you ever happen to have a customer asking for lactose free and you had a full day, you had a fight at home and the customer hadn't warned? Yes. It often happens. Last Sunday, we had a group of 15 people and two vegans came without warning. Out of 15, two were vegan and they already had their menu. So we had to improvise. But our mission is to make everyone happy, and we've learned it when we attended school at all cost. Trying to do the things in the best possible way. But yeah. So let's continue. How many people are in your kitchen at your restaurant? So we have two full-time and a third person only on Saturday and Sunday. And we have 80 seats. And in the summer, when we have weddings, events, we get to 100, 120. And everyone is prepared to manage the special customers. So we've taken up from 80 to 100 and 120 in 20 place settings. I don't know if you heard the bell. Since we are at school, we have various moments. We surprised you, but we didn't hear it. It takes more steps to make this than a normal pasta. If I have guests with special needs, at home. The management of celiac people can be more stressful. If at home you're not celiac, and you can have the contamination that you normally have in the closet that you have, the flour, you also have sugar. Then in that case, if you know that you could have people with problems, you open a new bag, you never risk, because flour is volatile and it goes everywhere. Always start from the assumption that everything can be contaminated. Let's make it thinner. This is a dedicated utensil. It's a dog stretching, because I think it's very hard to clean the dog stretcher. And the same goes for the mixers. The ovens are self-washing, but at home it's more difficult. So let's not invite celiac friends. Let's check the oven. Everything is going well. Here the pastry rings. We cannot use the brush unless it's new. It was a new Teflon brush. Otherwise, you have to use the finger. Okay, well, let's use the finger. So the pastry ring needs to be round. Yes, you will see that. You can have different diameters, different sizes. Give me the filling now in the pastry bag. So we make a small ravioli. It looks like Chinese ravioli. It's a carchon, and it's like a Chinese ravioli, but a bit flattened. We can add more filling if you wish. Yes, carne, the carne carchons and the Chinese ravioli are very alike. I would like to add this thing that you can check on Wikipedia. The crema tortello is very similar to the Friuli carchons. I didn't believe it. I made up a trip from Crema to Parma, and we had a tour of field pastas, and the crema tortello is very similar. You can look up Wikipedia, and some definitions are similar to that of Kirchhoff's. Yeah, it's the sweet and soury taste is similar to the Istrian and Veneto cooking. Yes, it's linked to Venice. They said that from Carnia they brought many trees to make the foundations of Venice. Many people from Crema worked in Venice. Yes, the Venice foundations are from Friuli. We express our Friuli pride. They tried to rob us from tiramisu. I don't know how many Veneto schools we have connected. I would pay attention. Lorena, I would like to say one thing, if I may. I think that tiramisu is like fries. Are they French or Belgian? They're called French fries, but they're not French. The beauty of tiramisu is to understand whether it's from Veneto or Friuli, but that's its strength. Margherita is a hard worker. 1 month ago, I was at a restaurant and I'm a tiramisu lover, and this goes back to the special customer. And she told me that she had tiramisu, and I was very pleased when she said it was gluten free because you make your own Savoiardi biscuits. Yeah, tiramisu is the most sought after dessert, even if everyone makes it also at home. The cream is gluten free. It's important to make the gluten-free Savoiardo biscuit and gluten-free Savoiardo biscuit. We touched upon the economic issue. I have a question. Having a gluten-free dish can have a higher cost, but it can also attract a population of customers who offset the cost, the higher cost of raw material. This is a heartfelt topic for those cooking gluten-free. For some things, it doesn't affect. If we're talking about pasta, field pasta, the restaurant owner shouldn't make gluten-free for everyone, for non-celiac as well. You can have a separate line. And leave it in the freezer. or have it fresh if you can do it every week. Economically, it's not feasible for the hours of work. Making a gluten-free pasta doesn't take as long as you take to make a normal pasta. It takes longer. So closing the tortelli or ravioli, whatever you decide to add, takes longer. A gluten-free flour costs more than a standard flour, even if I decide to use a high-quality product. It's not sustainable. Of course, depending on how many place settings you have, table settings. For example, if we make filled pasta, the work requires more attention. And then there's a psychological aspect that says one size for all. We were saying that I have a flavor in mind, but I'm not sure that when it's gluten-free, this flavor meets my expectations. And maybe the customer needs to make a habit of it. The same goes for dried pasta. So a gluten-free spaghetto is not the same as a normal spaghetto. You taste the difference. Some more ingredients we have, more opportunities we have. I have an additional question. In the last 10 years, Margherita, have you seen a change in customers? Sometimes it's a matter of fashion. I know that some do the gluten-free diet because of tennis player Djokovic. So more and more people eat gluten-free. My restaurant has been open for 35 years, and 35 years ago there weren't any types of intolerances. Now you have lacto-intolerant, celiac. Now it's normal. It's not the exception. As for fashions, yes, it exists. But maybe you have talked to the technologists or the psychologists. If you're not celiac, you should eat gluten because it doesn't hurt if you're not celiac. Gluten-free diet means more starch, which means more sugar. A gluten-free diet is not more healthy, it's less healthy. We shouldn't demonize gluten. For non-celiac people. Gluten helps. The only cure for the celiac is diet. When we decide to feed celiac, we have to do it fully because it's no joking matter. Here at school, we have teaching restaurants. We have 2 or 3 celiac colleagues, and we teach our kids, and we put in place what you teach. And in a menu, we offer dish, one gluten-free dish for every course. Unfortunately, there are many asymptomatic celiac people, so they're not sick, but if they take gluten, they can develop serious, severe diseases. So we have to pay attention. I'm a little bit celiac doesn't exist. So I'll move this. So if a celiac person touches products with gluten, is it risky? If they breathe it in, nothing happens. Gluten is formed from gliadin and glutenin, these two proteins which are present in various cereals. They bond when they get in touch with a liquid, so in the mouth with the saliva. From only breathing, nothing happens. Yeah, wearing a mask. Nothing should happen. So we can also talk about how what to do in the kitchen when you do promiscuous cooking. I'm stretching the dog for the tagliatelle. We have dog for everything. The students can do something as well. We have a new box of sage. Shall we make butter and sage with some smoked ricotta cheese? Yes, traditionally it's brown butter and or smoked ricotta. In we have already prepared a pesto, a special pesto with Can you hear me? I have a girl at school who has serious problems with gluten, and every day she works with standard flour. Nothing happens to her while she works. She cannot eat it because she would go in a coma. Thank you. Only by breathing it, nothing happens. She needs to be twice good to understand if what she's done is good without tasting. Yes, the art of dosing salt is very hard for a person. Yeah, she needs to have someone taste it instead of her. And then when she has set the doses, she go by habit. She knows that she will always need that quantity of salt. Yeah, she needs to have a taster. Margherita, let us know when you want us to make the charsons or anything else. Okay, I'll cut this, then I'll explain the sauce, and then we can start cooking. This meeting is especially necessary in order to discuss and understand that the future is that of reception, especially for special customers, doing something that is not systematic, but is systematic and not improvised. Sometimes we try to make one fits all. Other times we pay more. Discussion is always necessary. We also see our students who have problems with lactose, tomato, aubergine, pepper. And we are in Italy, but we also have people who are not Catholic, Muslims, who cannot, Indians who cannot eat the cows. So can we make a filling without pork? Lorena finds it hard because she's from Emilia. With our know-how, we can offer equally good products. So this is the guidance we give our students. This is the future. So you gave me a cue, and let's talk about what to do in the kitchen when we have problems. So with second courses, unless we roll things, and we can use breading or breadcrumb coating. So we need to pay attention to contamination. So when we have promiscuous cooking, we need to make sure that the gluten-free dish, whether it's a first or second course, never touches the gluten. For example, if you have the pan or the pot where you cook with gluten, you cannot have the gluten-free pan next to it. I have to be far away. Or if I don't have space in the kitchen, I have to pay attention not to drain where I have, not to pour with the ladle. The flows needs to be different. In my kitchen, I have four stoves for first courses and four for the second courses. The gluten-free first courses, I put them in the second four stoves. And they take a completely different path. So I have two completely flows which never cross. For example, also the dishes are black for gluten-free. If you are in contact with celiac people, you have to learn to distinguish the two. It's reassuring for the customer, because otherwise it makes everything we do in the kitchen void and null. So all the pathway to the customer needs to be safe. I also pay attention to what I use to take the pans from the oven. I have to pay attention to the film. I need to be careful because the volatile flour rests everywhere. Everything can be contaminated. If I start from there, everything becomes easier because it's not that difficult. Then we can talk about ovens. In restaurants, ovens are always self-washing. So if I make a pizza there, I could put in the oven at the same time normal pizza and the gluten-free pizza. What matters is that the dusting farina, the dusting flour, the flour dusting is rice flour, for example. In many pizza places, they only use rice flour, so for dusting, also to avoid contamination. We'll have different shelves. I can put the gluten-free product on top for less danger of contamination. If I have to use bread, I have crumbs. I have to be careful with crumbs. In my restaurant, I am a slow food, I pursue slow food, and I make crouton, not only the self-washing oven. I have two ovens, so one for gluten-free and the other for crouton. So the potatoes that I make for a celiac cannot be baked in the non-self-washing oven. So the gluten-free product can only be baked in the self-washing oven. So if I start from the idea that everything can be contaminated, my problems are already solved. Okay, we can cook the pasta. Then we have a spoiler from Chef Federico. Do we have a microphone? In the meantime, I'm going to wash my hands. My colleague is really good. We hold events and buffets, and we start from making buttered vegetables. So I give him the floor to talk about it. We cannot hear you now. At school, since we hold a lot of events, we need to find recipes which can be good for all, fit all. So over time, we managed to prepare a gluten-free butter for fried vegetables, buttered vegetables, typical of banquet. And after a long time, we have prepared one. So you can add some news. So rice flour, gluten-free flour, maizena, and turmeric. And we can recondition it in the oven, so it's as fresh as if it were just fried. So it's very easy and very useful and helpful. So this is something additional that we had never been able to do with the gluten rich flour. In the fryer, you only have to put a gluten-free product. When we prepare the lines for these vegetables, we spend half a day or a full day doing only this. We make a large quantity. We freeze, we put in bags, and then we put them in the freezer. Yeah, we want the doses for the butter. Yeah, it has copyright on doses. Now we're going to cook our carchons. Amorino is melting butter with sage. Here we have the tagliatelle that we are going to cook soon, and I'm talking about the seasoning. Tomatoes. And then I brought my pesto, but I picked before coming here. It's backrams. We are near the end of the season, so it's very big. Last week and the week before, so we prepared 8 kilos of backrams. But the doses are boiled backrams or blanched. Half backrams, 100 grams, 50 grams of almonds, garlic is not necessary because we already have backrams, fine salt 2 grams, extra virgin olive oil 150 grams, and we have to put it inside an emulsioner. So we make a sauce with tomatoes. We can cook carchons and pasta in the meantime. I'll check if the cakes are cold. We're a bit early, so if you have questions, do not hesitate to ask. Can you explain what backrums is? I don't know, it's Latin name. Does anyone have a mobile? Let's see if we have the botanical name. It's a herb, Allium ursinum, that grows in the underwood, on ditches sometimes. You need to pay attention because there's something similar, but it's poisonous. So the property of the leaf of Allium ursinum, backrums, is that every leaf has a root, a stem. So one leaf for one stem. If you are not familiar with the leaf, do not risk it because you risk ending up with having the poisonous one. We pick it, but then we check leaf by leaf because I think that last year someone passed. Donatella from Veneto says that it is called Allium ursinum, and it should be taken for mistaken for lily of the valley, which is very, very poisonous. So on wild herbs, you should be careful. So Allium ursinum, backrums is in trend. We've been using it for many years, but I see everywhere Easter menus with Allium ursinum, because we need to admit that there are fresh trends in the kitchen. In the latest years there's beetroot, now it's Allium ursinum, and then you will see we have a fan saying it's delicious. Is it milder than garlic? Yes. Can it be appreciated to buy those who are allergic to garlic? No, I never risked giving an allergic person Allium ursinum. But I'm very prudent like that. I never risk it. I think it's also the common garlic is from the Liliaceae family. I don't know the answer, honestly. So I take the pan, the tomatoes. So it takes a bit longer to cook the gluten-free pasta. It's a typical butter sage, it could be butter thyme, some put a more colorful butter. If I combine it with the smoked ricotta cheese, I brown the butter, then I put a drop of water for the emulsion, the cream, and I put the gherkins. Our expert in the chat box says that it's the same family for backrums and garlic. Go ahead and plate it. In Friuli, we use a lot of butter, for example. In Lorena, you're from Emilia, you say that they should be baked in butter and dried in Parmesan cheese. Egg, butter, and Parmesan cheese are kings in Emilia-Romagna. Vegan might struggle in Emilia-Romagna. Yeah, for those with restaurant, the vegetarian menu is easy, but the vegan menu takes time. Let's brown this as well. A nice dish also helps plating. This is children menu. There's the rule of 3 or 5. Yes, this is the restaurant quantity. I would maybe add one more. Let's move it. Let's brown the small tomatoes. Salt and pepper. Not much because the pesto is very savory. And we can also cook the tagliatelle now. If you wish, we could also use confit tomatoes, and we wouldn't put them in the pan. Usually I put salt, pepper, sugar, thyme, oven at 90 degrees, 2 hours. But to each their style. You're black now. We can't see you anymore. Minor technical problem. You hear us speak Friuli dialect. It's a language, like Pasolini used to say. It's a bit more immediate. Amorino, you took a Teflon ladle, yes. Pay attention because I had been warned that you were very scrupulous. So dishes. So in the project, we have a very complex challenge to make fit for celiac people or for people with lactose intolerance or diabetic people, vegetarian or vegan people, to make them eat some typical dishes. It's quite a challenge in Veneto because the dishes are mostly fish-based. For celiac people, they're perfect, but not for vegan people. Yeah, vegan people need to accept. How can we get a bacala, a codfish, a dried codfish to a vegan? We shouldn't even call it bacala codfish. We have hamburgers made of all types of vegetables, and we still call them hamburger, but it's not ham. But I think the industry is moving very quickly on that front as well. For example, last week I tasted some vegan meat, which is not meat. It looked like fillet, and I must admit it wasn't that bad. I tried it just for fun. It wasn't bad. It looked like meat. Beetroot was the colorant there. So I must admit that it's going well on that front. Then we will also plate the cake that is already ready. So we're almost there. Also, the skimmer should be dedicated. Of course, the quantity of salt should be at discretion. Thank you. This saute is a bit heavy. We could make this pesto with other herbs, for example, campion, arugula, chives. And we should try to express our opinion on what was said yesterday. If the special customer is a resource, an asset, or a problem, the answer had been a bit on a standstill. Yes, you're right. Yesterday we were talking about catering with 600 people, where no one warns about problematic vegan or celiac people. It's hard to manage because usually catering is buffet outside the restaurant, so a villa, castle, and it's improvised. So it becomes hard to manage. But they were reporting that now the large restaurants doing catering always stock 10 servings of gluten-free, lactose-free, etc. Why? at the restaurant, it's an asset, and we must admit this, because if, as you were saying, the allergies are more and more present, these are customers who will be pleased to return. For example, in my restaurant, often during ceremonies, if the person is, for example, the bride or the party guy or girl chooses the restaurant based on that. So sometimes we are chosen because the party person is sure that our cooking is fit for everyone. For lacto-free, I would like to add that bars have soy milk or lactose-free. But with soy milk, you cover vegans, vegetarians. You can buy any type of plant-based milk at the supermarket. I drink a cappuccino every 3 years. We can plate the cake as well. So one, you choose. I choose this one. It's the same one, but I would have chosen. You could also add some gluten-free icing sugar, because it also often has starch inside. A leaf here. In the previous stages of the project, we were also talking about the possibility to offer an equally sophisticated menu for intolerant people. So in order to attract the special customer, we should be able to give sophisticated tasty dishes which are not tomato pasta for lactose intolerant or for the vegan, or a vegetable-based, plant-based salad, but also being able to please the person. So without making a dish that this person would be able to make at home, without any stimulus to go out to the restaurant to eat. It's a matter of the restaurant owner to organize the kitchen depending on the type of cooking. For example, in my case, I always have two types of crespelle. Can have two types of gnocchi, one in the freezer. When the celiac person comes, I take it out of the freezer. I always have a soup. For now, I have the onion soup, which is gluten-free. Tomorrow, we'll have the asparagus and bean soup with buckwheat. So when I prepare my menu, I always think about this as well, so it's easy to print it. So were you also talking about star restaurants? Not necessarily a star restaurant, but some sophistication in the dish. Because when I go to the restaurant, I always choose something that I wouldn't be able to make at home, or that is very challenging to prepare. So the best part about going to the restaurant to eat for my meal is to eat something that I cannot make at home. Based on its cuisine, kitchen and cooking, the restaurant will make its own recipes. So if it's a star restaurant, the ingredients will be gluten-free, where the gluten-free variable is present or not. So trying to have 2 or 3 dishes that are fit for the celiac people. Star restaurants usually always have fish. Fish and meat is never a problem. The problem is more with the first courses. They also have those wafer made with special flours, gluten-free, and in the star restaurants there are many gluten-free. In the star restaurant it's easier because these things can be prepared, are already prepared. They have more room, more access to the raw material. They don't take a semi-finished product, so they start from the raw material that is controlled with or without gluten. It's true that the star restaurants always have a lot of ingredients in their dish. There will never be a dish with 3 ingredients in the star restaurant. But when you prepare the menu, you decide what to do and what to offer. A question from Lombardy, Cuisine delle Stiviere. They ask us if it's possible to see a cake, not the one that you have already plated, to see the texture of the cake made with this special flour, so you can cut it. You're already cutting it. If I want a volunteer for tasting, I'm here. Today I'm quite sad I cannot be there with you. It's porous, it's nice to look at. Since one thing that you shouldn't do when it breaks, it's very crisp. It's not very sweet. You can increase the sweetness, adding some sugar. Phenomenal. I didn't say good, I said phenomenal. And you confirm that you used the sugar. It wasn't salt. As I was telling you, this recipe had been given to me a few years ago by this famous chocolate master, and it wasn't gluten-free. I have a bit tweaked it. I made it in a gluten-free version and I changed a few things, but the recipe was hers. And I don't take the merits for the recipes. So this was a recipe from a chocolate master for an important event. So which event? We're talking about Chantal Cody, one of the chocolate masters of the Rococo shop in London. She had prepared these cakes for a bank in the city. She had made this chocolate cake. And she called it affinities cake. I don't remember why. Can you keep it? Yeah, I freeze it and I put it in bag and I put it in the freezer. In this period, there are strawberries, for example. I make it with strawberries, raspberries, breadfruit, berries, or with what I have. I make my own jams or marmalades. So I can have pears, candied pears, any type of fruit. In this case, it's vegan, but I could make an English cream, which is not vegan, clearly. Because I can make this in a non-vegan version. So I stick to fruits, and so I won't put custard. So tastes are more refined. So the use of onion or garlic is less. The cake is really good, very good. So the new cooking brings closer people who maybe prefer milder taste. So the what you said about garlic and onion in the past, when you made risotto, you started from the sauté, but now not anymore. I have a case. I was in Africa with the sisters, Salesian sisters of Casale Monferrato, and I taught cooking to some girls. And one day I found a decent rice and I said, today let's make a Parmesan risotto. I found a similar cheese to Parmesan cheese. And this risotto had come out very good, very tasty. And I told myself, look at you, Morino, you're in Central Africa and you managed to make such a wonderful risotto. It was 3 p.m. I had to leave. I leave the restaurant. I remember that I had forgotten one thing. I go back in and one of the students was slicing raw onion on the risotto, and she told me, I'm sorry, sir, it tasted really poor. Yeah, you have a passion for it, not the onion, on the contrary, I remember that. Are there any other comments or questions? We are here. We could have made an additional recipe. Shall we show the dishes? Good afternoon. I'm afraid the camera cannot reach here. So let's move. We want to show the plating to our participants online. I keep tasting if you wish, so I will support my overweight. I still have one question in stock. This one. during one of the other workshops that we did with Ca' Foscari University, we were wondering on how to present dishes for special diets in the menu. There are various choices and strategies you can use. You can have a dedicated page for gluten-free or vegan. You can have a mixed in the same dish category. So I find in the first courses the gluten-free one. Or I can have a separate section with symbols and colors. In your opinion, what are the preferable solutions for the consumer? I suppose that the kitchen doesn't have any problems on how to present the menu, but are there special arrangements that can help the consumer orient? For the celiac, we have a specific menu. On the a la carte menu, there's a symbol. Usually it can be the leaf, depending on the restaurant and the symbol. So the symbol next to the dish where you clearly understand what the vegetarian product is. The vegan asks for it because it's not so habitual, at least not in my restaurant. Because until 2 years ago, we had meat, so we're not a vegan restaurant. Of course, when a vegan customer comes, we try to make him happy. But for a vegan person, it doesn't make sense to go to a meat restaurant. When the vegan customer comes, the waitress comes to the kitchen to ask for guidance. Usually soup, cream, pasta. So for the celiac, you have a symbol on the menu. For the vegan or vegetarian, the waitress comes to the kitchen because I don't have many vegans or vegetarians because I don't have many. So there's a relationship between your waitress and the customer, and it's the management of a few seconds. So this is an answer as well. Yesterday, the psychologist was mentioning that the preparation is important in the staff for special customers. It makes a difference. Yeah, it's important to do staff training. And when the special customers come, you need to know how to behave. They come to the kitchen to ask to make sure. But theoretically, we should be able to answer. But I always prefer that they ask because maybe that day I can have something more or something less to offer. But it's also true that I don't have a very big restaurant. So I can manage it quite quickly. So it depends on the type of restaurant you have. Thank you very much. From Lombardy, from Veneto, from Croatia, from Trieste. Is there someone who has questions on dishes, on strategies, something that you would like to share with us? So if there are no questions or comments, I have a few communications to give you. With Civiform, we are preparing some supporting materials for both in-depth reading of the content of this training, and to give you additional resources that will be made available. And for those who are directly involved in the project, you will have additional materials for the training you will give your students. When we are connected at the same time, we cannot deal with all the individual cases or types of special requests or types of solutions or ingredients that can be used. But the purpose of these lessons is to feed and enrich what we can convey to the students when we do training or education. As we were saying at the beginning, this lesson will be made available. We will send you the recipes with all the ingredients. In the meantime, we have a comment from Castiglione delle Stiviere saying, as a lab teacher with the students, we are discussing some recipes to prepare to meet the request of customers. We know that statistically, in every group with more than 10 people, there's at least one celiac person and one vegetarian person. We often organize meetings with numerous groups, so above 15, 20 people. We always have a few cases of a special proposal or a special request. Yes, we spend a lot of time on teaching how to manage these special client. And with the students, we also try to compare the flavors. They taste the original flavor, and then we try to approach it and how we can manage a customer or a colleague, a waiter who comes and tells us that as a customer is a celiac or a vegetarian or vegan. Yes, in all our restaurants, we always have gluten-free dishes so that all our guests can find a solution. It's not easy, and it's a constant adaptation, discovery, testing. But I guess every school will find strategies. This is something that you can only use at restaurant, but I like the idea of different colors of dishes, different flows, these mechanical actions that become a daily routine. To manage something that works well. Who knows what will happen next? There's a technical question in the chat box. So can we cook bake a potato in the oven for the celiac people? Yes, it can be cooked, baked in the oven that is not contaminated. If you don't have a self-washing oven, there will be gluten inside, and it's a fan oven, so sooner or later something will rest on the potato. So potatoes, when you have the celiac, you have to cook them in the self-washing oven. Yes, the difference was self-cleaning or not. If the oven is self-cleaning, so gluten-free or not, and in the stress of the work, maybe someone has in mind a gluten-free product or doesn't pay attention where they cook that. So I've been certified for many years, and during the service I work with 2 ovens. One is self-cleaning and one isn't. I have the tray with the potatoes, and I have to be prepared for the celiac customer. Another comment in the chat box. So in the classrooms, we also have celiac diseases, intolerances, religious and personal choices. So when doing training, it is necessary to convey full knowledge. So we have to do it trying to abstain from giving personal opinions, because each of us make their choices. We're not all in agreement. And so sometimes we struggle to refrain from saying he's missing out since he doesn't eat this. Yeah, we think so, but we don't say. So we only express our opinions in the kitchen, not outside the kitchen. From what gets out of our mouth cannot reach our hands, because our hands needs to be precise. I say one thing, a customer is like a child who makes you upset. In cooking, you have passion, but self-control of the waiter is important. The waiter must be impeccable when relating to the customer. Waiters should be marketing experts, sales experts. Yeah, waiters are sales experts, and they have the right self-control. One of our best April Fools was calling the colleague who was coordinating the the restaurant and saying, I have to book for 15 people, so 2 vegans, 2 vegetarians, 2 celiac, 1 Muslim, etc. When in the summer we do our evening picnics with 120 people, at least 20 are, as I call them, strange or odd. We have celiac, lactose-free, pregnant, vegetarians, children, okay, children. 5 or 6 types of alternatives. So I spend the last hour only preparing the alternatives. So I spend all day preparing the line, but the last hour is only focused to assembling the alternatives. I spend more time working for those 20 people. We have also combined requirements, so no gluten, no lactose, so there are customers with combining more special needs, so challenge over challenge. So in a restaurant, what is the percentage of people with intolerances? I'd say 10%, which is not little. So if you cannot treat these people, you give up new opportunities. It's not only about 10%, 10% also talks to other people. So the percentage is high at your place because they know they can find answers to their needs. Okay, thank you. We have a short questionnaire for participants. You can answer the questions on Mentimeter. I have a very last comment about special needs. A person who wrote they don't eat cold dishes. I was talking last night to a colleague. There are vegetarians who don't eat mammals, and vegetarians who don't eat, but who only eat 4-legged animals. They're not fully vegetarians, but they exclude the category. This is odd. It gets very difficult. Yeah, it's close to being racist. So now I will give you the link for the questionnaire. It's on the chat box, and I will also share screen with the QR code.
Di prendere il chiodo che sono stato. Poi trovato tutte queste affermazioni, ragazzi. Poi, such feedback. Yeah, so study of quite useful. If you don't like format, you format start to chat. Oh yeah. It's,
You can also write in English, Croatian, in the Friuli language, whichever language you prefer. We will translate. Will be at your disposal if you want to add something. You still can speak freely. Just to say goodbye, maybe. In the meantime, I would like to thank you all because I know that 2 hours and a half that are so intense in the afternoon are challenging. We appreciate your participation and your expression of interest and support for our lesson. I think we can close Mentimeter. I would ask Chef Margherita, Morino, Federico, and Stefania to say goodbye. We cleaned everything up in the meantime. Better than the Santa's house. Thank you very much. It was very interesting. The feedback was very positive. Perfect chefs. I saw a comment on the chefs. Thank you all, both those who worked and those who listened, because we know that these are very heavy days, intense days. I would like to thank Civiform for allowing us to have Chef Missana with us. I would like to thank the Cividale colleagues for their support. We will keep in touch through the project coordinator. We will send you information on the continuation of the training activities and materials. I would like to thank the schools of Rovini, Pula, Dubrovnik, Castiglione del Stiviere, Trieste. I would like to thank the service and our interpreter, Elena. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Lorena, for making everything so perfect. Thank you. I take a snapshot, a screenshot. Don't move. I'm sorry, Giulia had to leave. She is one of the special customers now. Yes, very special. Those are the best situations to be special. Yes, our colleague is pregnant. Thank you all from Italy to Croatia. See you soon. Bye.